There comes a moment in every person's life when they must make a choice that will determine whether they live as a follower or die as a leader. A choice between the comfort of the crowd and the power of standing alone. Today, I want to challenge you to embrace something that most people fear: the strength of the lone wolf. You see, the world has programmed you to believe that you need others to validate your worth, that you need approval, acceptance, and applause to feel significant. But I'm here to tell you that this is the greatest lie ever sold to humanity. The most powerful people who ever walked this earth were those who dared to walk alone when everyone else was walking together in the wrong direction. Solitude is not loneliness. Let me repeat that, because this distinction will change your life. Solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is the absence of others when you desperately want their presence. Solitude is the presence of yourself when you have the courage to face who you really are. And there lies the difference between the weak and the strong, between the follower and the leader. When you learn to be comfortable in your own company, you develop something that cannot be taught in any school or university: unshakable confidence. This confidence doesn't come from what others think about you. It comes from what you know about yourself. It comes from the quiet conversations you have with your own soul when no one else is listening. Society fears the person who walks alone because they cannot control them. Think about it. How do you manipulate someone who doesn't need your approval? How do you pressure someone who is comfortable with their own thoughts? How do you break someone who has already learned to stand on their own 2 feet? You can't. And that's exactly why the system wants you dependent on others for your sense of worth. The lone wolf understands something that the pack never will: that true strength comes from within. While others are busy seeking validation from external sources, the lone wolf is busy building an internal foundation so strong that nothing can shake it. They understand that the opinion of the crowd is often the opinion of the confused, the uncertain, and the unfulfilled. When you embrace solitude, you give yourself the greatest gift possible: the gift of self-discovery. In the silence, away from the noise and distractions of others, you begin to hear your own voice. You begin to understand your own dreams, your own desires, your own purpose. You stop living someone else's life and start living your own. But here's what most people don't understand about solitude. It's not about isolating yourself from the world. It's about isolating yourself from the wrong influences so you can connect with the right purpose. It's about stepping away from the crowd's agenda so you can focus on your own mission. It's about saying no to good so you can say yes to great. The power of solitude builds character in ways that group activities never can. When you're alone with your thoughts, you can't hide from your weaknesses. You can't blame others for your failures. You can't make excuses for your lack of progress. You are forced to confront the truth about yourself. And in that confrontation, you find the strength to change what needs to be changed. The pack mentality is the silent killer of human potential. It's the force that keeps extraordinary people living ordinary lives. It's the pressure that makes unique individuals conform to mediocre standards. And if you want to achieve something significant in this life, you must break free from it completely. Let me tell you something about packs. They move at the speed of the slowest member. They think at the level of the lowest common denominator. They dream at the size of the most limited vision. When you run with the pack, you automatically limit yourself to their limitations. You reduce your potential to their level of comfort. The pack operates on fear. Fear of being different, fear of standing out, fear of being criticized, fear of failure. And this fear becomes contagious. It spreads from one member to another until the entire group is paralyzed by the same limiting beliefs. They convince each other that playing it safe is wisdom, that following the crowd is smart, that conformity is the path to security. But the lone wolf knows better. The lone wolf understands that security is an illusion, and that the only real security comes from developing your own abilities, your own skills, your own strength. While the pack is busy seeking comfort, the lone wolf is busy seeking growth. While the pack is avoiding risks, the lone wolf is taking calculated chances that lead to extraordinary rewards. And the danger of seeking approval from others is that you give them the power to control your decisions. You start making choices based on what will make them happy rather than what will make you successful. You begin to live their dreams instead of your own. You sacrifice your vision for their acceptance. Think about every great leader, every revolutionary thinker, every person who changed the world. They all had one thing in common. They were willing to stand alone when everyone else was sitting down. They were willing to speak up when everyone else was silent. They were willing to take action when everyone else was making excuses. Martin Luther King Jr. walked alone when he had a dream that others couldn't see. Steve Jobs walked alone when he envisioned computers in every home. Oprah Winfrey walked alone when she believed she could build a media empire. None of these people waited for the crowd's permission to pursue their destiny. Group thinking is comfortable because it removes the burden of individual responsibility. When everyone is thinking the same way, no one has to think at all. But this comfort comes at a price. The price of your own unique contribution to the world. When you think like everyone else, you become like everyone else. And when you become like everyone else, you disappear into the crowd of average. The lone wolf refuses to disappear. They refuse to blend in. They refuse to accept average as acceptable. They understand that their differences are not weaknesses to be hidden, but strengths to be celebrated. They know that what makes them uncomfortable in the crowd makes them powerful in leadership. The journey to authenticity begins the moment you stop trying to be who others want you to be and start becoming who you were meant to be. This is perhaps the most difficult journey you will ever take because it requires you to go against everything society has taught you about fitting in and belonging. Your authentic self is not the version of you that gets the most likes on social media. It's not the version that gets the most applause at parties. It's not the version that makes everyone comfortable. Your authentic self is the version that emerges when you strip away all the masks, all the pretenses, all the performances, and stand naked before the mirror of truth. Most people spend their entire lives running from this truth. They create elaborate performances to hide who they really are because they are afraid that their authentic self won't be accepted, won't be loved, won't be enough. But the lone wolf understands something profound. It's better to be hated for who you are than to be loved for who you're not. Living other people's dreams is the fastest way to a life of regret. When you look around and see what others have achieved, it's easy to think that their path should be your path, but every person has a unique fingerprint, and every person has a unique purpose. What works for them may destroy you. What fulfills them may drain you. The courage to be different in a conformist world is rare because difference is uncomfortable. It makes people question their own choices. It challenges their assumptions. It forces them to confront the possibility that they might be living the wrong life. And rather than face that uncomfortable truth, they often try to pressure you back into conformity. But your differences are not accidents. They are gifts. They are the raw materials from which your greatness will be built. Every unique trait, every unusual talent, every unconventional way of thinking is a tool in your arsenal for making an impact that no one else can make. And you embrace your authentic self, you stop trying to compete with others and start trying to complete yourself. Competition is about being better than someone else. Completion is about being better than you were yesterday. Competition looks outward for validation. Completion looks inward for transformation. Your gifts and talents are not meant to be hidden in the crowd. They are meant to be developed in solitude and displayed in leadership. The time you spend alone, working on yourself, improving your skills and strengthening your character is not time wasted. It's time invested in becoming the person you were designed to be. The world doesn't need another copy of someone else. It needs the original version of you. But that original version will never emerge if you keep trying to blend in with everyone else. It will only emerge when you have the courage to stand alone and let your true colors show. Discipline is what separates the dreamers from the achievers, the talkers from the doers, the wishers from the winners. And the kind of discipline that creates extraordinary results is the kind that can only be developed in solitude, away from the distractions and excuses that groups provide. Self-reliance is not just a nice concept, it's the foundation upon which all success is built. When you depend on others for your motivation, you become a slave to their moods. When you depend on others for your confidence, you become a victim of their opinions. When you depend on others for your direction, you become lost whenever they're not around. The lone wolf develops the ability to motivate themselves when no one else is watching. They build their confidence through their own achievements, not through others' praise. They find their direction through their own vision, not through others' suggestions. This self-reliance becomes their greatest asset because it means they can perform at their peak regardless of their circumstances. Mental toughness is like a muscle. It only grows when it's challenged. And the greatest challenges don't come when you're surrounded by supporters. They come when you're standing alone, facing criticism, dealing with setbacks, and pushing through barriers that would stop most people. The lone wolf welcomes these challenges because they know that every obstacle overcome makes them stronger. The daily habits that separate leaders from followers are usually practiced in private, away from the applause of the crowd. While others are sleeping in, the lone wolf is waking up early to work on their goals. While others are watching television, the lone wolf is reading books that expand their knowledge. While others are complaining about their circumstances, the lone wolf is taking action to change their situation. Comfort zones are like quicksand. They feel safe at first, but they slowly pull you down until you can't escape. The lone wolf understands that comfort is the enemy of greatness because comfort breeds complacency, and complacency kills potential. They intentionally put themselves in uncomfortable situations because they know that's where growth happens. Every day you have a choice. You can choose the path of least resistance, which leads to average results, or you can choose the path of most growth, which leads to extraordinary outcomes. The crowd will always choose the easier path because they're looking for comfort. The lone wolf chooses the harder path because they're looking for transformation. Solitary practice is where excellence is born. The athlete who becomes champion doesn't just train during team practice. They put in extra hours alone, perfecting their technique when no one is watching. The musician who masters their craft doesn't just play during group rehearsals. They spend countless hours alone with their instrument, pushing themselves to new levels of skill. Your success will ultimately be determined by what you do when you're alone. It will be determined by whether you can push yourself when no one is pushing you, whether you can stay focused when no one is watching, whether you can keep going when no one is cheering. Vision is the ability to see what doesn't yet exist and believe it's possible to create it. But true vision requires distance from the noise of the crowd, because crowds are focused on what is, not what could be. They see problems where visionaries see opportunities. They see obstacles where leaders see stepping stones. The lone wolf develops the ability to see beyond the present circumstances to future possibilities. While others are complaining about how things are, the lone wolf is planning how things could be. While others are accepting limitations, the lone wolf is discovering solutions. While others are following trends, the lone wolf is creating new paths. Opportunities are everywhere, but they're often invisible to the crowd because crowds look where everyone else is looking. The lone wolf looks where others aren't looking. They see potential where others see problems. They see possibilities where others see impossibilities. They see breakthroughs where others see breakdowns. Independent thinking is becoming a rare skill in a world where most people get their thoughts from social media, their opinions from influencers, and their beliefs from whatever is trending. The lone wolf thinks for themselves. They form their own opinions based on their own research and experience. They make their own decisions based on their own values and vision. Clarity comes from removing distractions, and the biggest distraction in most people's lives is the constant input of other people's thoughts and opinions. When you step away from the noise, you create space for your own thoughts to emerge. When you stop listening to everyone else's advice, you can finally hear your own inner wisdom. Focus is impossible in a crowd because crowds are scattered. They're pulled in multiple directions by multiple voices with multiple agendas. The lone wolf has the luxury of single-minded focus because they've eliminated the distractions that scatter most people's attention. They can pursue their goals with intensity because they're not trying to please everyone. Creating your own path requires courage because there's no guarantee that your path will work. When you follow someone else's path, you at least know that it's possible to reach the destination because someone has already done it. When you create your own path, you're stepping into the unknown. But that's also where the greatest rewards await. The lone wolf understands that following someone else's path can only take you to where they went. If you want to go somewhere new, you have to create a new path. If you want to achieve something different, you have to do something different. If you want extraordinary results, you have to take extraordinary actions. Your vision is unique to you because your combination of experiences, talents, and perspectives is unique to you. No one else can see exactly what you see because no one else has lived exactly what you've lived. This uniqueness is not a limitation, it's your competitive advantage. Fear is the great enemy of human potential. It's the force that keeps people small when they could be great, quiet when they should speak up, sitting when they should stand. And the greatest fear that most people face is the fear of being alone, the fear of being different, the fear of being rejected by the group. This fear is so powerful because it touches on our basic human need for belonging. We want to be accepted, to be included, to be part of something bigger than ourselves. But when this need becomes a requirement for our self-worth, it becomes a prison that keeps us trapped in other people's expectations. The fear of rejection keeps more people trapped in mediocrity than any other force. They would rather be accepted for being average than risk being rejected for being exceptional. They would rather blend in with the crowd than stand out as a leader. They would rather play it safe then take the risks necessary for extraordinary success. But rejection is not the enemy, it's the filter. It filters out the wrong people and the wrong opportunities so you can focus on the right ones. When you're rejected by people who don't share your vision, you're not losing anything valuable. You're gaining clarity about who belongs in your life and who doesn't. Building courage is like building a muscle. It starts small and grows stronger with practice. You don't become brave by avoiding scary situations. You become brave by facing scary situations and discovering that you can handle them. Every time you stand alone when it would be easier to sit with the crowd, you build courage. Every time you speak up when it would be safer to stay silent, you develop strength. The price of mediocrity is a life of regret. It's the regret of wondering what could have been if you had been brave enough to try. It's the regret of knowing that you settled for less than your potential. It's the regret of reaching the end of your life and realizing that you lived someone else's dreams instead of your own. But the reward of excellence is a life of fulfillment. It's the satisfaction of knowing that you gave everything you had to become everything you could be. It's the peace that comes from knowing that you didn't waste your gifts or squander your opportunities. It's the joy of making a difference that only you could make. Isolation becomes your greatest strength when you learn to use it for growth instead of escape. Instead of using alone time to feel sorry for yourself, you use it to improve yourself. Instead of using solitude to avoid challenges, you use it to prepare for them. Instead of seeing isolation as punishment, you see it as privilege. The privilege of focusing on your goals without distraction. The people who criticize you for standing alone are often the same people who are afraid to stand themselves. Their criticism is not about you, it's about their own insecurity. They criticize your courage because it reminds them of their cowardice. They question your choices because it forces them to question their own. Leadership is not a position you apply for, it's a responsibility you accept. And true leadership often requires you to walk alone, to make decisions that others won't understand, to take stands that others won't support. This is the burden of leadership, but it's also the privilege. True leaders must sometimes walk alone because leadership is about going first, not going with. Leaders go first into the unknown. They go first into the uncomfortable. They go first into the unpopular. They walk alone until others see where they're going and decide to follow. The burden of leadership is that you must make decisions when you don't have all the information, take action when you're not certain of the outcome, and stand firm when everyone is telling you you're wrong. You must carry the weight of responsibility for not just your own success, but for the success of those who choose to follow you. But leadership is also a privilege. It's the privilege of making a difference that matters. It's the privilege of creating something that didn't exist before. It's the privilege of inspiring others to become more than they thought possible. It's the privilege of leaving a legacy that lives beyond your lifetime. Difficult decisions are called difficult because they require you to choose between good and better, between safe and necessary, between popular and right. The crowd avoids difficult decisions because they're comfortable with the status quo. Leaders embrace difficult decisions because they're committed to progress. Your solitary journey doesn't just benefit you, it inspires others to break free from their own limitations. When people see someone brave enough to walk alone, it gives them permission to walk alone too. When they see someone willing to be different, it encourages them to embrace their own differences. When they see someone pursuing their dreams despite criticism, it motivates them to pursue their own dreams. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you create a ripple effect that touches lives you may never know about. Someone is watching your example and gathering the strength to make their own bold choices. Someone is drawing inspiration from your independence and finding the courage to stand on their own. Creating a legacy through independent action means that your impact continues long after you're gone. It means that the courage you demonstrated, the stands you took, and the example you set continue to influence others for generations. It means that your decision to walk alone helped others find the strength to walk their own paths. The lone wolf doesn't walk alone because they hate people. They walk alone because they love their purpose more than they fear rejection. They walk alone because they understand that some journeys can only be taken solo. They walk alone because they know that the path to extraordinary is rarely crowded. Your time is now. Your moment is here. The world is waiting for what only you can contribute. But that contribution will only come when you have the courage to stop following others and start leading yourself. It will only come when you stop seeking approval and start taking action. It will only come when you stop running with the pack and start walking alone, like the lone wolf you were meant to be. The choice is yours. You can continue to live in the comfort of the crowd, accepting average results and wondering what could have been, or you can embrace the power of solitude, develop the discipline of the lone wolf, and create the extraordinary life you were designed to live. Walk alone, not because you're antisocial, but because you're ambitious. Not because you don't care about others, but because you care too much about your purpose to let others derail it. Walk alone because that's where you'll find your strength, your vision, your authenticity, and your greatness. The world needs more lone wolves. People brave enough to think independently, act courageously, and lead by example. The question is not whether the world needs you to walk alone. The question is whether you have the courage to do it. Your journey starts now. Your transformation begins today. Your legacy is being written with every step you take. Walk alone like a lone wolf and discover the power that's been waiting inside you all along. Remember this truth. Every great achievement in history began with one person who was willing to stand apart from the crowd. Every revolution started with someone who refused to accept the status quo. Every breakthrough came from someone who dared to think differently. That someone could be you, but only if you have the courage to walk alone when walking alone is what's required. The world is full of followers looking for leaders. The question is not whether you're qualified to lead. The question is whether you're brave enough to step forward when everyone else is stepping back. Your time to walk alone is now.